Welcome to another session of Amplifying Abstract. Let me kick off today's session with sharing screen. Edgar, I made you host. Reclaimed right share screen.
Yep, all good.
Yes, wonderful. So, if this is the very first time you're hearing about Amplifying F Sharp. Who are we? We are an initiative that wishes to improve the F Sharp ecosystem. Our bread and butter for the past year has been organizing a bunch of sessions. These are mostly virtual, where we, like this stream, try and explain something. We have our session of today where we're going to talk about how could we do drag and drop in Ionide. More on that later. We've done this a couple of times in the past, and we're really trying to tackle a lot of open source projects that need just a little bit more love, or need to be maintained, or could be, improving the entire F Sharp experience. That's all about what we plan to do. We recently also started an open collective. We are collecting some money so we can do a little bit more, have some more means what we can do today. Definitely check out this page if this is new to you. And the four of us, the original founding members, I guess, of Amplifying F Sharp, are present here today. But yeah, realistically speaking, I don't see us doing this for like 10 years straight. So eventually we'll run out of juice and we could use some new blood. And we sort of very cautiously want to look and expand our core team because eventually we might lose interest or the energy. We are still at a very good stage, and that's why, because we're at our heights, we definitely want to ensure the legacy, so to speak, and try and get some more folks chipping in into what's Amplifying F Sharp is all about. We have a little join our core team message. It's on the banner on every page. Uh, if you're interested, please go through this. There's just a little bit of things we do to keep this up and running, and we're just hoping to get some more new folks, new faces on board, and yeah, potentially grow our little initiative. So before we dive into today's session, we also have some updates on some of the ongoing things. Jimmy, would you want to share something first about the language server protocol?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So we're going to go to this one first. Actually, let's look at this. So if you're not familiar with this, the language server protocol is basically the spec that powers all the language servers that VS Code and other tooling uses. This is basically the request response that allows the server and client to communicate. And one of the things that's been kind of annoying about this thing is just that it's typically written in TypeScript, and that means everyone has to come to this page, look at all these types in here, and kind of like handcraft their own types from this particular page. And so, like, if you have another language, you got to come in here and make sure that, like, whatever this looks like, you got to go and create that in your own language. Kind of annoying about this thing.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I apologize for being late. My freaking internet has been down all morning, and I've been trying to get it up.
Oh, hey Jack.
I'm on my Wi-Fi hotspot, so if I cut out at any point, I'm really sorry.
Yep, no worries. I'm just showing off some language server protocol stuff for the moment.
Cool. If you guys want, I can kind of, for the record, show kind of what the idea of like. I feel like it was pretty self-explanatory, but I could do that if you guys wanted to for the recording.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're live right now, so
Oh,
just
perfect.
just hang out. So back to the language server protocol. So you have to come in here and look at all these different types. There's a lot of things in here where they have like interfaces and things that type like extend. A lot of these kinds of there's just lots of stuff in here. You can see the scroll bar is kind of massive. There's just a ton of stuff in here. And previously, the only way you kind of had to do this was through handcrafting responses. Well, recently they put out something called the meta model. If you look for the meta model here, there's a JSON file here that it kind of describes all these types, and also this is a giant file. And so this now is at least like usable from some other type of language that you can read this JSON and figure out what kind of types you need to actually get. And so we've had a previous session. Don't watch me type while I'm doing this. So if we come in here, there's a previous session, Fabulous AST. And Fabulous AST is this library that allows you to do code generation with kind of a more unique take on and more simple take on the AST for F sharp. So looking at this, you can see that there's a lot of code here to kind of generate just a let binding. I think this is just a simple example of a let binding. And instead, you can write it in about 3 or 4 lines. So a lot simpler model. And so what I did is I spent a lot of time actually using Fabulous AST, which is powered by Phantomus, to generate the F sharp types from this meta model. And so if we go look at that, there's a pull request that just got merged. I want to say yesterday or something. I spent a little bit of time on this for a while. Took about a year actually, over the course of a year of doing this kind of work, but I wasn't doing it all the time. But this basically does read in all these types. And so if we take a look here at the code base itself. So now instead of a types file, there's this type CG file that has all these generated types. You can see that this generated file itself is about 7,500 lines, but it also has a lot of stuff in here. So you can see that there's a bunch of types here that kind of match up to what is in the language server protocol. So if we actually take a look at, go back to the specification here, we can see that there is X. Let's go. Document URI. So you can see that something like here is this type document URI is equal to string. This is how they denote things in TypeScript. Same with this URI. You can see that these things exist in this space. There's a lot of interfaces that are generated. I'm not going to particularly look at these, but we'll go to something like semantic tokens params. So this is probably one of these requests that are looking for semantic tokens. And if we actually look for semantic tokens params in here, we can see that there's this semantic tokens params that extends this work tokens params, this partial params, and has this identifier here. So this record implements these 2 interfaces, which are basically the corresponding versions of these, and actually has the text document identifier, which is also here. And you can see lots of fun, I guess I should bump the font up a little bit. See lots of interesting fun things here, which is also having a bunch of the XML documentation here. So it's all kind of parsed and put into here that allows us to be able to now get these types and actually get all the documentation for them. So now we just merged this. I've been running this in FS Autocomplete for about a week already. It's been working fine. But anyone that is going to be on the path of wanting to make a net language server with F sharp, this is now fully compliant with the spec.
Nice. Yeah, awesome. Shout out to Phantomas and for allowing us to generate code, and Fabulous AST. What it's just doing is adding a little bit of a DSL on top of that. But yeah, so I should be releasing a stable version of Fabulous AST in the next week or so we can finally have documentation and can leave out of the scrutiny, and we can give it a go.
If you're curious about where the generator is, it's under the tools folder in the meta model generator file, or the folder here, and there's a bunch of files in here that kind of correspond to what's going on. And the generator types has all the information for type generation. All right, well, with that, I'll hand it back to you, Florian, unless anyone has any other questions.
Looks great. Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. Moving on, another update we kind of want to give is something David's been working on. I definitely don't want to steal your thunder, so David, take it away.
Yeah, let me screen share. Okay, you should be able to see. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So the people who are with us for some time now might remember our unlocking F# potential session, which happened last year, November. During the session, I showcased the first prototype of something called FSIH. It's this little package you can use in FSI to get online help in the REPL of F#. It was well perceived by the community, I would claim, and of course the plan or the dream was always to have it integrated in FSI itself at some point. The first try or the first work started in an amplifying F# session, of course, in January. For various reasons, that work wasn't finished. Some other real life stuff showed up, and I kind of shelved the job till recently, when we collected enough money in our Open Collective initiative, and that allowed me to reopen we started the porting work, and it also took some weeks, but I want to thank all the reviewers. It was a little bit of a discussion how to show the interface, if we should make the H function a method of the FSI object you have in your REPL session, or if we want to use the hash directive H. And in the end, we went with the hash directive, as you can see in some screenshot. I will show you later. So the current state is that you are in your FSI like you know it. There's this new option to use the hash help directive. You can do something like list map. Let's go a little bit complex, fold back, put it in parentheses, quotes. Oops, and don't forget the hash. And you get, as you know, the documentation with the description, parameters, an example, and the full name and assembly. So as Kevin didn't really like the FSI.h idea, he went and made a big PR. He really invested a lot of work into this PR here to make it possible to parse hash directives of non-string arguments. So that one will allow us something like this. To use the help directive without the quotes. I have checked out his branch here, and this is of course the user experience we want to have. You can use it with any identifiers you would think you can use, like list, map, array, whatever. And have your documentation right at your fingertips without any context switching. No need to change to the browser and all that, like you know from other ecosystems. As you know, this idea was stolen from the Elixir REPL back in the beginning. And I'm really happy that we made it till here, even though it has taken us some months. And I want to emphasize we are really thankful for all the donations we got through our Open Collective. And if you like what you see, if you like the outcome of our work, think about donating, and talk to your boss, please, because we are still not seeing many companies donating to our initiative, and yeah, we can really make a difference with money, which just frees us to do this kind of work in the ecosystem. Yeah, that's basically it.
Question, is hash H still on the table? I feel like helps so much typing. Could it be
No,
H?
it's not on the table. It's help, and then the identifier you want to get the documentation for.
As in somebody didn't approve H, or is it worth pitching, or is it done deal?
I think the discussion is over. It's help, and yeah, but yeah, should be.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
okay.
that's super exciting, David. Like that is going to make the Rebel experience so much better.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah.
Quick question, David. So the coloring of the the REPL, it will depend on this is something I don't know, this is for my own education. So the coloring of the REPL depends on the terminal that you are using, or you are going to get the same experience on all across different terminals.
So the coloring you might remember from the FSIH package. I used Spectre console to get nice colors in there, but of course in the official FSI we don't want to take the dependency on Spectre, and we just do a normal text print without colors there, at least for the moment. Maybe the feelings will change regarding taking dependencies on things, and we could do some nice coloring, but yeah, the current state is it's just uncolored text.
Yeah, I would imagine I would imagine at some point, even if you don't want to take a dependency, you can do a minimum coloring, like we don't need to go, it may be full blown, but at least kind of
Yeah,
improve that.
you mean with the built-in color support of the consoles? Yeah.
Yeah, something that is already on .NET, on on the .NET ecosystem, on the BCL or something like that. And the last question is, so now that you have done this working in also in conjunction with the F-Sharp team, there is a possibility that this experience, we can improve this experience even more. So for example, we can even add the function definition as part of the experience of help. Because sometimes if you want to know, okay, what's the definition of this function? If it's list.map, it will take the whatever is the item list, and then it will return a new list, something like that. Based on your experience, how difficult something like that will be?
It should be not too difficult. It's just I mean there's already an issue about this type signature documentation. I think you're shooting for, and yeah, I would really like to invest some time in there. Hint, hint, hint. So yeah, I'm pretty positive that it will be doable.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say first improvement PR is coloring. See how this goes, and second improvement PR will be the types. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So we come to our main event. Jack, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm hoping my my screen share works just fine. For whatever reason, my camera, I don't have the bitrate, but I think it should be okay. But here, I'll go ahead and share my screen. So this was just kind of, and part of this is open for discussion if this is even something that's needed. But let me share this screen here. Boop. Okay, please work. Okay, we're gonna go quick while my internet holds out. So this is just VS Code, the Ionide plugin, which is wonderful, and thanks to everyone who works on it because it makes everything that I do with VS Code and F Sharp so much easier. But I do a lot of MVU stuff with Fable right now and kind of the safe stack. And so, I'll be working in here. And one thing I had noticed, so here's my client and here's all my components. And you guys can see all this, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Sweet. So one thing I as kind of just a thing that I wished, and I think I've used other editors that support stuff like this, but essentially, so if, for instance, I have this item component here that I use for my little character sheet I'm building, and let's say I'd wanted to bring it up to here. Right now, the current steps, and I often reorganize this. Even if it doesn't necessarily have an impact on the code, I like organizing things kind of similar to the structure as it is kind of in my kind of big code base over here. So I just generally like to structure things in kind of a list and kind of have things build off each other. But then over here, if I want to take item, and let's say item needs to get defined way higher up here. Right now, the only steps to really get it up there, I either have to, I have to click this arrow and I can just kind of work my way up here, and that's one way. And so that obviously seems painful. The more kind of the better way to do it would be you right click on it, remove the file completely, then go up to where you want to place it. So let's say I want to go above like skill here. Then I'd have to go to add file above. Then, oh, I'm sorry, and I have to actually do the exact one. So then I have to do item.fs, and then I have it there. And so I just thought it would be cool if there was a way to drag these around into different places. And then also if there was a way, I don't even know if this is too much, but if there's a way even to maybe drag files between different projects even, because one idea that I could see myself doing in the future is, starting in this kind of shared repo and then breaking it out to, if there's a specific feature for a specific version of my game, breaking it out into like that. But I don't even know if that's an idea that we'd like to pursue or not, but that was kind of the original idea, just be able to drag at first just within a single project and just reorder this list over here on the left. So
Yeah,
any
definitely
ideas, any opinions?
definitely within a single project, that is a very, very good idea. Between projects, things get a little bit more murky because
I would assume so, and that's
virtual file
that's
system.
that I don't even know if that's a good idea, but the first one seemed to make a lot more sense.
Yeah,
And I guess my question, oh god, I'm sorry.
so it makes sense to definitely have it for this, and yeah, that workflow is very atrocious. To having to move those, that's very bad.
And I guess, Ben, I'm really curious because I think this would also just be an interesting amplifying F# event, because I would love to just see, like, and if people have a lot more experience in working this, I wouldn't know where the first place to start with this, but I'd love to learn and then kind of use maybe this session as a way to build off me being able to impact the Ionide experience in the future. So if anybody has a lot more experience, if anybody could like point us down the right way to get this going, let me know.
Yep, I sent you a few messages on, so you might want to pull up those links.
Let's see, let's grab Discord here. I'm surprised my internet's holding out. This is awesome.
So the three things that the one thing is you're gonna need to pull down the Ionide, VS Code, F# code base.
Okay.
So make a fork of that, and
So I have tree. This is the first link. Then we have the. Oh, here, 1 second.
Okay.
Confirm. Okay. And then there was one more. Okay, so I believe I have the 3 links that you sent me here.
Yeah, let me send you just one more because it'll make a lot more sense to kind of show. Hopefully it renders in your browser. This is one thing that doesn't necessarily render all the time. Go to that last link. All right, so if you scroll down, there should eventually be like a mermaid diagram. Yeah, that thing. So I made this a little while ago to kind of show like where things live in this like whole hierarchy of how this tool set works. So because there's so much tooling that's kind of involved to make this like FS autocomplete is not just one thing, or Ionide is not just one thing. It's all these things plus more. Like this is just the very high level of kind of like which repository you might need to go to for certain things. And so at the very top right, we see that there's VS Code, which happens to be where you do your editing. But for VS Code to talk to FS autocomplete, you have to make an extension. And so that's what the VS Code Ionide VS Code F sharp, that's the extension. And inside there are various things that you may want to use. So specifically, there might be like colorization or helpers to deal with VS Code. We may have to look at those at some point. Probably not the colorization today. And then there's the LSP, which is just kind of mentioned earlier, is how it communicates to the server, the backend thing that does all the brains. This is the thing that does all the type checking. And then with inside that, there's a lot of other components that power it. So at the very bottom, you can see that there's the F sharp compiler service, which FS autocomplete uses to get type checking and be able to tell you what types are what. It also uses the analyzers SDK that we've shown off in a few other sessions. This should kind of give you better, so you can run analyzers in your code base. Language server protocol, which is that part that I just showed off that gives us all the type definitions. And then there's the Ionide proj info, which allows us to communicate with MS build. That's how you actually load in project information. We probably don't have to interact with this project. I think we have good enough things to handle, because like basically the thing is just a glorified like reload stuff from MS build. So we probably won't have to touch that project, but we will probably have to put some stuff in FS autocomplete to teach it to move files correctly into the project file.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
we'll probably start with the Ionide VS Code repository, but we probably will have to pull down FS autocomplete to finish this whole
Okay.
feature.
Well, here, let me go ahead and drag this down.
Yep, go
Okay,
ahead and grab it. I think for today, I think what we're probably going to want to do is just kind of see how we can interact with the tree view API that's in VS Code, see how far we can get. Because if we can kind of get to the place where it looks like we are moving nodes in the correct spots, we can probably, because the part about moving information between or changing the file project is like a well beaten path. We just got to add some decent APIs for it.
Gotcha. So let me grab this. What was the exact name of the repo? It was Ionide V sharp or Ionide dash VS Code dash F sharp. Okay. So clone. Yeah. Ionide dash VS Code. Oops, that's not a dash. VS Code dash F sharp. There it is. And I want. Oh, who is the? Let me see here.
Under the Ionide repository.
Yeah.
You probably want to create your own fork because it would probably be easier.
Actually, that's a great idea. I should totally do that.
As all good pull requests start. Gotta make your fork.
Okay, cool. So then actually I didn't even realize there's this diagram here. So then would most of our work today, if we're trying to do the feature, would that start in which of these bubbles are we starting with, you think?
The Ionide VS Code F sharp, because that's the thing that interacts with VS
Oh,
Code.
exactly. Yep.
And that's kind of the UI driven portions of our application right now. So that's what we're going to have to deal with. But being able to edit the project file, that's going to have to be some requests that we send to FS autocomplete. So like I said, to finish out this feature, we'll have to add some endpoints there that we use.
VS Code dash. Actually, I should do me. Let's see. It should have just popped up here.
Yep,
Maybe it's taking a second here. 1 second. It's probably taking a second because I just forked it.
Yeah, I did see it list. It's there.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Surprisingly, not alphabetical order. Amazing.
Beautiful. Give that a second here. Okay, awesome.
And typical VS Code extensions are written in TypeScript, but because we all love Fable, guess what Ionide is written in F#.
Yay! Woo! I can actually here real quickly. Let me do this real quick. I want to use because I'm a weird Nix person. So 1 second. Let's go. Basically, I don't have I have a VS Code defined per project, so I need one that has F#. Okay, now we should be good. What he's thinking. Okay. So I have Ionide VS Code F#.
Yep.
And let me see if.
So the first thing that we want to kind of do is just see that you can actually run this thing. Let's just make sure that that works. So if you click on the debug button on the left side, there
Okay.
should be a build and launch. Let's see if this workflow just works, just to make sure that we.
Oh, the pre-launch task extension build terminated with
Not
exit
work.
code.
I wonder
Let's
why.
see.
Is it because it's thinking about bin build sh?
Let's see. Problems. I have nothing in problems. Maybe terminal.
Yeah, so it's cannot require to execute. It does not. Is it because build sh is an executable or something?
Cannot execute required file not found. So I guess it's looking for build sh and it says it doesn't exist.
It might just be like you're on like some type of Linux, right? So it might not just be.
Yeah. And you know what it is? It's looking down. Ah, I see what it is. So I think that. No, that should be fine. It's totally there. Let me.
Yeah, I'm just saying that these.
Oh no, it's this right here. Okay. So yeah, because this is right now the terminal process. Yeah, because I'm using Nix for anybody I'm using Nix OS. And so right now it's looking for the bash in my Nix store. Let me see. I think if I can just, because if this is just the command here, I might be able just to run it from terminal.
Can be built. So what we want to look under is the tasks. It's either the tasks or the. If you go back to the file view, there's that VS Code folder. Exactly what all the things are. Very top, there'll be a .vs Code folder.
Mm-hmm. Is this what you want to do?
At the very top, there's a VS Code folder. .vs Code. Yep.
.vs Code. Boom.
So and here there's the launch JSON.
Okay.
You can see what we're potentially doing to launch this extension. So the pre-launch task is that's basically just doing the build, and then the rest of this is actually trying to launch a code extension with our just compiled code. So we might be able to get rid of the pre-launch task here the moment, or you can either go into tasks and change that to make it work correctly through this.
Okay, so
If we
could I
don't have-
hypothetically here just comment
Yep.
it? Just save that.
Well, so this is going to be the whole launch task. We want to. So when you're using VS Code to actually launch things, you want to launch this whole thing. You can comment out the pre-launch task, just the key on line 6.
On line 6, okay. Let me. So just this here.
Yep, comment that out. And
Oh, I see.
Then was actually run the build locally through your terminal. Just run build sh.
Okay. You said, oh, what'd you say? LSH?
Or build sh. It's
Oh,
that
build SH.
Run that and see. Well, before we do that, go into tasks and just make sure that we're looking to see what extension build does. Just to because basically extension is a named thing in tasks.
So we're looking for this here.
Yep. So I'll just build sh. Okay, so that's all you just need to run. It's just build sh.
Okay.
Didn't know if there was any additional arguments we need to pass in.
And hold on. Yeah, where am I in the right folder here? I should be.
It might have trouble finding the output too, so that's gonna be the fun part about this.
Oh, hold on. Yeah. Cannot execute required file not found. Am I in? So I'm here. No, I should be in the tuple. You know, am I doing? Hold on 1 second. I did dot slash. Does it not exist in this folder here for me? Oh. So I have build sh, and I tried, unless there's some weirdness going on or I'm doing something stupid.
And the executable flag's set on there, so it should be executable. I mean, you
Just
could
dot
try
slash.
bash. Is it because it's looking for the bin bash at the top? Is it the shebang? Is that the problem?
The shebang, so doing, because actually I'm not a gigantic bash person. So I've
Can
used bash.
you do a witch bash?
A which bash? Which bash?
Ah. Just copy that and put that at the top as the shebang on line 1.
Oops.
All right, give that a try.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So okay, so I think it's looking for .NET 7. Is that correct? I can fix that real quick. I'm on
Yeah.
.NET 8. Okay. Let me just. So what I'm gonna do here. This is one of the cool things about Nix. I'm just going to change one thing. Whew. And we're just gonna go to my Nix. And for my build, instead of .NET 8, I should be able just to do .NET 7 here. Save that. And then if I enter into my shell here, that's gonna drag down. This might take a second to download because it's gonna download the SDK, but this should just, yeah, we're good. So it's just gonna build it with .NET 7. So I'll enter into a shell with .NET 7 and we can.
Yeah, the thing is, I think we probably could go to .NET 8. That's the other. That should have been an option I thought of. But
Nice.
my brain working because not enough caffeine yet.
Same.
But it also gives me a good reason to also say, yeah, we should probably start moving that to .NET 8 at some point.
Okay, so now I'm gonna close this one. We saved it all. Good. I can code it here. So now this guy thinks that he's in .NET
You
7
may have
land.
a different environment, right? You might have to do another witch bash.
Actually, so it should. Let's see, which bash. It's I saved the change on line 1 if that was all that was required. So.
I'm just saying.
But you're right. Actually, this might have changed here. It looks to be identical, but yeah, that makes sense because.
Yeah, I don't know much about Nix, so I don't know if they would
Oh,
change.
it's just a bunch of weird hashing stuff.
Yeah.
So let's run this. So then I can just do ./build.
Yeah, I mean, given we might be able to uncomment out the launch JSON task now, just because we fixed
Actually,
this.
that's a. Should I try with that first? You think?
No, it's fine. Just let this run. This might give us. This might show something else we need to get it set up.
So restore successful. It got my packages. And I think my computer's just running hard right now, so I'm assuming it's working. Yeah, here we go. Oh, okay. It looks like I got an error.
Is it a node?
Unhandled exception, fake core build exception, yarn installed failed.
They can't find user bin yarn. It's because of all the.
Is it my nixing?
Possibly.
No.
So it might also be something we have to change the directory where it's looking for yarn.
Okay, so is it worth diving down that trying to find it, or should I just leave that for later and try to, is it even possible to proceed forward without being able to build yarn?
I mean, it seems to be using yarn install, so it's like if you have yarn installed already, you might.
I don't, but I can get yarn real quick if you'd like to.
Yeah, if you want to.
Let me get yarn.
But it also might be the same problem where it's not in the user bin.
So it might just work. Hold on. So
Is there a way
so,
for like Nix to kind of deal with those kind of
yeah, so like as far as I'm aware, actually, all we're gonna do here, I could install it globally, I guess, but I'm just gonna see about if I can just get a yarn package. So there's yarn. So all I should have to do is add that dependency, it's just literally yarn. So then I can run over here. We're gonna go to my terminal. I'm gonna exit this. I'm going to open this up real quick. We're just gonna add, because if it's literally just a dependency, most of the time you're able just to chuck it into here. So I can literally just say, okay, yarn, save that. We can mix develop. That'll yank down yarn for us.
Yeah, I'm
So
more worried
now,
about the path because like we had to deal with Bash. It's also
yeah,
required in a specific
there
path.
might be a way. I might
Oh.
have to, let me see. The answer is yes. The answer is always yes with Nix. The question is like, how hard is it to know what to do? Because a lot of it's just a learning curve stuff. So then I do code here. And let that long, oh, it thinks this one. Let me close this one.
I think one thing that I learned in F# ecosystem or in .NET ecosystem in general is like the more that you use the default, like experience with just what we're used to, it's kind of the safe bet because if you start using Nix or something that is not really yet being really used on .NET, then it kind of we're going to get some issues like this.
True. So far, actually, it's been a really. I actually haven't bumped into anything yet. So, and actually, I'd be pretty. Let's see here. Hold on. I'm curious because I know that. Oh, I'm silly.
Yeah, hopefully this doesn't become a Nix session.
No, if it is, then I can let somebody else drive and I can go fix it for myself here. I don't want to like just hold up everything. Or I can at least get it fixed and we could do it again next time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like this kind of stuff is like I definitely want to try to get other people. This is about encouraging other people to do the job, and if you need to get your environment set up, this is kind of part of it, right?
Oh, there we go. It's working. Yep,
All
that's
right.
what I mean. Like, cause I built SafeStack, and I'm pretty sure SafeStack does some yarn stuff. Ta-da!
Right, that works. That's nice.
I'll slowly convert everybody to Nix.
I
Okay, so
use
it's
Nix, by the
building.
way. That's
Huh? I'm only half joking. Okay, we're doing something. And I'll build a Nix flake for. Oh, there we go.
All right, cool. So that means that you could run this technically. So if you go back to the repository, you can probably click the play button and it should hopefully fire up a VS Code instance with our compiled code.
Let's do this. Open folder. We'll do. Why am I blind? No caffeine. There we go. Okay. The only thing I did comment out, would it be worth it to try to uncomment out the pre?
Yeah, I'd say I commented and see if we could just get it because it should run quicker this time. It's already compiled, so should probably just.
Now, should I run it from the terminal again, or should I go straight to the debug?
Yep, go straight to the debug and let's go through this because this is going to be our loop essentially. Once we get into changing code, we're gonna write some code, run it, and see what ends up happening.
Okay, nothing's filled yet.
Sometimes, oh yeah, there's that little thing in the terminal. There's a little, if you go back to terminal, there's on the right, you can see there's extension being built there. So let that do its thing, and then
Cool.
eventually it should hopefully pop up a new instance of VS Code with our extension
Well,
installed.
while we're waiting, what would the steps be to bring it to .NET 8? Oh, there we go. Hey, Doo-doo-doo.
Probably change the global JSON. That's probably it.
Oh, cool.
Most
So
likely.
I have this thing now.
Yep. So this is now, if you go to the extensions, this is a VS Code with our Ionide installed, but it's the version we just built. So if we actually did some things, so it's probably not going to be useful by itself. You probably open up test project, something like
Okay.
your example that you had, which is had a
Yeah.
bunch of files, which would be a good
Let's
test bed.
see. Now I'm hoping there isn't any weird Nix stuff. Is there a way to validate that this current version that we have of Ionide in here is the version that was built from our what we just built, not just the not just whatever's I gave it with Nix.
Yeah, I haven't had a problem with it, but yeah, I don't know if Nix
Okay, well, let's
would,
just
but
run until we hit I guess it'll be obvious when we start changing stuff.
yeah,
With
it's like we could change some text in here, right? And like it'll be pretty obvious, or like add a different log statement or something.
And does this have a hot refresh, or is it just every time we just got to
It
build it
doesn't,
again?
unfortunately. Now, I think
Okay.
there's a way of doing that, but I haven't. Like the thing is, like I typically don't end up working a lot in the INI code base
Yeah.
proper. I tend to do a lot of work in FS Autocomplete because that's where most of the stuff happens anyway.
Gotcha. Okay, so we got this here. Would it be useful if I did like maybe, let's see, can I do this over here? So on the right, we have our extension one that we built.
Yeah,
And
we're probably
then
going to
on the
close
left,
that because we're probably going to have to. We're going to do
okay,
the build loop again eventually, so you can just more or less close it. And it was more to
kill.
verify that we got to. Can we just get this thing to run? And glad we went through that before we changed code.
Nice.
And there's a bunch of
There were a bunch of
stuff.
errors. Unable to parse. Oh no, so now it's getting angry about my, let's see, error finding .NET version, unable to parse version, string. So it's saying I don't have, it can't find, let's see, hold on. If I do, what if I
Yeah, we
do,
have some logic in there to try to figure out which SDK to use.
okay, so yeah, I'm on 7.0.406. Was the problem you were thinking that it actually might be a problem with the
So we do
specific
have some
version?
parsing code. If you go to the F# file, there's an F#.fs file, and that's where like the entry point is for the VS Code extension.
So build, what was the name of the file? F#.
Yep, F#.fs, because F#'s the language, so that's the extension.
So we're in here.
And we have some parsing logic in here, but
So one thing I'm noticing here is that, oh, there we go. Ionide just popped in. Cool. Okay, so is there specific something I'm looking for in here in regards to the, oh, I guess it
yeah,
is here.
you're finding .NET version. I don't know why I didn't think it's probably because you don't have .NET installed in your machine property, not in a Nix environment when you stand up one of these new things.
Yeah. Is this going to be, is a breaking problem actually? Let me see.
Probably.
It might be.
We could also just
Valid.NET.
version, but it might also not find any .NET version. That's probably your main problem, is because it's probably trying to find it on your real machine.
I could actually, I might be able to install .NET globally. Generally, you don't. Because like generally like the Nix idea is that you like do it per, like you basically make it so that per project you install everything as like a shell, and then you can just build off of that. But if that's the problem, error starting F# language server error find. So it literally just, is there a way to look at the command that it ran here actually?
It's
But
probably
I'm assuming that this is breaking right now if I don't get rid of this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if there's
Can we set one of the environment variables to just point, like .NET root or any of those?
I'm sorry, say that again. You're a little quiet.
Sorry, so there are things like environment variables, .NET underscore root, all in all caps, and that might be just the thing you want to set your actual .NET CLI to. No, it would be
Dash
more
root?
something like setting .NET underscore roots, everything in all caps, and that's the environment variable.
Oh, so basically pointing the path towards.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
So
it
that's a good question then. So, because I think to do path, isn't it just? Let me remember how to do that on Linux, but I think it's just you just say path or export. How to export path? Because I think you just make a variable. Yeah, I can just use export. So I think that would be export, and then we can set something. So then what about,
It's
what was
.NET
the,
underscore root equals whatever the path is for .NET currently. That's all
well,
caps.
uppercase, yeah.
it's all
All
caps,
caps.
okay. And the nice thing is, what would be really cool is that this actually isn't a problem at all. When you make the Nix shell, you just write some bash commands that does all this for you every time you hop in. So you'd have that ready to go. So actually, that might be something I end up doing for myself, and then I can just make that emerge. And then it was just give it the path, right?
Yep. So
So then the path, where did I have that path actually? Was it
Would be
in?
the folder where the .NET executable is in. So
I believe it's
not
this right
.NET itself.
here. If it lets me grab this.
you can also just open up another terminal and do a which.
I think I might have it here. Let's see. Okay. So I think, so now hypothetically, let's see, I just want to see if this does what I think it's going to do. It's not a command, but I think it's a path. So I think that path variable exists. So then would it be worth it
Do
to try to
echo
rerun it?
$sign.
Oh, I have no
Roll
dollar
it.
sign. I'm stupid. Yep. Okay. So that should be the directory, if I'm not mistaken, where, yeah, I trust them. If it's just looking for the folder where it has this, then I think we're good to go. So then let's rerun. I guess I just rerun the debug here and see if that runs.
I'm not entirely convinced. Is the folder one up? Like, do you have SDK at the end? One higher probably has the .NET file, right?
So yeah,
That's why
so
I do a which.net and it'll just for sure tell you where it's at, right?
say again. I'm sorry.
You do which.net or it's which in Linux, right?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Let's do which. Oh no, you're correct. It is the it is bin.net. So let me go ahead and fix that real quick. Good call. So then I think I can just do this again and paste this. So that should override that variable. So now we should be. That
Now the
should take
question
us
is,
straight to.
will this actually correctly run with the environment variable being passed on? I think you can set an environment variable in the launch JSON as well. I think that's
Cool.
possible.
Okay. Well,
So
here
we may have to do
I'll try running it first. Do you think that's a good idea?
because this is probably like a sub process and it's probably got its own space of what these exports are. And so when you run this, the current context in which your VS Code doesn't have that as a environment variable, so it's not going to inherit that when you launch the new VS Code.
So far,
That would be
zero error.
that would be my guess. But
I think I'm not gonna say anything yet. But yeah, actually, if we end up figuring, oh, there we go. Okay, let's look. Did I get any errors that time?
to the output, I think it goes into output. Eventually.
Nothing in output.
Maybe debug console, maybe
Console.
debug console. It's right next to it.
Oh yeah. This might have been from before though. I don't know if it refreshes every single time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But you can open up, I think what you can do is you can open up did it open up your other folder?
It did open up my other. So I'm over. I have this the SDK one. Close this,
So
but then it
go
did
ahead
give
and
me.
open like your project that you wanted to test against.
Okay. Actually, it already did. Perfect.
And then you can look at you can try to look at an F-sharp file. If it obviously doesn't work, then that's the main problem.
Yeah. So it's not. I don't even see the Ionide thing popping up here in the top left. So that might be the
Still
problem.
failing.
Yeah, and then it can be located. Okay, let me debug this for a minute here, but if this is taking too long, I'm more than willing to hop offline, do this, and then but I am
Maybe
experienced.
as a backup, we can use your machine, Jimmy, if you have this available.
Yeah, we could probably
Yeah,
run a
at least
few.
we can make some progress, kind of where are the stuff and what we should look at.
Here, I will stop sharing and fix things on my end here. Now, where is my Zoom? Uh, Did that
Going back
stop
to
sharing for y'all, or am I still
Yep.
sharing?
Nope, I went ahead and shared.
Oh, cool.
All right. So the place where we need to look here is this solution explorer. Let's see
You bump the font just a little bit, Jimmy?
for sure.
Yeah, wonderful,
Hey,
thanks.
this Solution Explorer FS is the file that has what you're kind of used to, which is that Solution Explorer. So that's what Jack was showing here. This is this here. And what this is powered by is that tree view, is something called a tree view. So the tree view API is this concept of these nested directories or folders or files or whatever the tree is, just a tree, right? And so this is all powered by this. And if we look here, there's a thing that we implement called the tree data provider. And the tree data provider is the piece that gives us access to this, making this tree. And it has a few things that you have to implement. That being said, there is a drag and drop thing that to be able to access drag and drop, there is another thing we have to implement. And so I pulled this up from the Microsoft VS Code extension samples and eventually found the drag and drop test view TypeScript file. And so we can see that this thing implements this tree data view provider. This implements the tree data view provider, which you can see here that we also do here. But we also need to implement this tree drag and drop controller. And so if we actually
Gotcha.
if we actually go to definition of this tree data view provider, this is code that we pull from the VS or the Fable import VS Code. So this is a generated file that looks at the TypeScript definitions of what is going on, or the TypeScript definition, so we can get access to it from a F-sharp point of view. And the one we were looking for is the tree drag and drop. So we'll look for tree drag and drop. Let's see if this is actually in here. And it happens to be. So this tree drag and drop is an interface. And it has a few different properties that we potentially have to implement, which is the drag mime types, the drop mime types, the handle drag, and the handle drop. So I'm guessing handle drag is right when you start dragging items. Luckily, there's a nice little big giant documentation thing here. So
Nice.
let's go ahead. Because I'm kind of exploring this too, right? It's the idea that when you start dragging items, this will be called. Extensions can use handle drag to add their data transfer items to the drag and drop. So I'm guessing this means that we get this data transfer And so we have this MIME type. Not exactly sure what these are. These actually like links to. Let's take a look at
Just
what the MIME
curious,
type
does
are.
anybody know what mime means in this context? I don't know if that's a common.
Yeah, it is. It's a like if you look for HTML MIME. So you basically end up with kind of like a path here. If we actually
Gotcha.
look
Okay.
at examples, so it's a little bit different. This is not the right. So, but look here, they eventually do set some things here, which is like this application in VS Code tree. So I'm not exactly sure how this plays out just yet.
But that would be an
But
example
look,
of a mime right there.
yeah. So
Okay,
I'm
here, I'll look.
guessing what this is a key that we're using to denote that like this is the solution explorer. We might already be using something like this already. Let's see. We are not, but looking at this, kind of just inferring how this kind of test stuff ended up looking like. There's this like set. You can see here that there's this set call on this. So if we look at their example, there's a handle drag and a handle drop. And the drag, there's basically this handle. So it looks like it has some type of key that we're setting. And this is probably trying to be namespaced to your particular tree view. This would be my guess. And so, like, if you have multiple, probably if you have like dynamic tree views, this matters a lot. But for us, it's probably not going to be the case. We have one solution explorer. We're not dynamically creating a bunch of solution explorers. And then they do a new data transfer item. So it looks like they take literally whatever is handled in the drag. It looks like there can be multiple items dragged. So this might be interesting. We might be able to drag multiple files at a time. And then they add this to this key. And so on handled, so basically this is like a giant dictionary. This data transfer just looks like it's a giant dictionary of stuff. And then when we go to handle drop, we get the target node. And then we get the sources, which was this data transfer, and then we have to get sources out of it. That looks like the kind of workflow that I would kind of expect. Kind of, right? How it's managed, but it's basically just like here's where you're dragging these things to.
And would node in this context be like another element within the UI that we're like, we want to, if
Yeah.
you, yeah, okay. So it's like if you
So
drag it over something and then it knows either to place it above it or below it, and that's like a
yeah,
node.
that's where I don't know where I don't know what target is supposed to be. I don't know if it's the item above. I don't know if it's the item below. I don't have a good sense about that just yet. Maybe the documentation will clarify that when we kind of read through a little bit more.
And was
Maybe
real quick, this was this the last link that you sent me that I didn't know? Oh no, which because you were on VS Code extension samples. Okay, I'm gonna look this up myself too.
So the tree view drag and drop TS file, that's the one that has the drag and drop components here. And so if we actually read their code, let's see what's happening here. So they end up getting the transfer items. They have to do some, looks like they have to basically do some casting here because I'm sure this is just like an object. They're getting local roots, removes nodes that are already filtered and target. So what do they do with the target? So this looks like it drags into, but I'm not sure about how it handles things that are beside. This looks like it's trying to basically like change complete routes and moving them to whole other nodes. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be something where we can move up and down. Be surprised if you could do that though. Like I don't know if there's an in-between drag. Thinking about this now. Looking at this, how they've written this API, this handle drop target is basically just like you're taking items and you're putting it on top of a target rather than like above or below.
Oh, I see. So it's not like within the context of the list, really, like whatever hypothetical.
Yes, but I don't know if that's, you know, but I don't know if that's just one way to use it and we need to use another way, but that might be the case.
I wonder, do they actually have like they have like a documentation for like, I know this is a test file, but I wonder if they actually, is there documentation in here somewhere? Let me see.
Handle drag shows up anywhere.
There we go. Okay. Oh, there we go.
It's basically there.
When the user starts
Starts
dragging items.
Yep. On another tree item in the same tree, your data transfer object will be preserved. To add
Okay.
objects to data transfer item. Okay.
Is this the
So
same one? Because it's saying
it-
source instead of target now.
So it looks like, so yeah, I don't, so basically I'm guessing so this is the handle drag. So this is, but the drop here is the target.
Oh yeah.
So so like the thing that we're gonna have to deal with now is like there's no above or below. We have to handle
Like
what
where
do
we
people,
are.
well, we have to handle what do people mean. This is gonna be like, so on the edges, this is gonna be a problem. So when we look at, so if I wanted to drag like this file, right, I could probably drag it, but I don't know, how am I supposed to know I put it above or below? How do I get this, like obviously this is done by sorted by name, but if I was dragging this item, you can see here I'm dragging onto a folder, and that makes sense because I want to move it to another folder. And here it doesn't make necessarily as much sense. But
Yeah, and even in the context of dragging it like into a well, because this isn't a project view, this is a folder view, right? So there's
But the hard problem now that we're going to run into, I can already see this problem. When I drag helpers onto this, what does this mean? Do I put it above? Do I put it below?
right. I guess the one idea that would pop to my mind, I don't know if this is a ton of extra work, would be to almost have like a white line appear. So I don't even know if that would work, because you'd need to basically define the space in between, because hypothetically that would be the best solution if you could be like almost like where, like I forget, there's some other editor I've used, but where you drag it and it like kind of appears between it, where it's like a
Sure.
little white line that you're going there, but I don't know if that's supported.
That's the kind of the problem, is like we're running into what does VS Code provide for us, and how much hacking do we want to do to make this kind of work?
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a more difficult problem as we kind of progress. And so like that's what I'm saying is like the target, when you look at the API, the target is the node that you're dropping it onto. But in our context, we need to think about above and below. And
Right.
when I drag an item onto another, do I mean above or do I mean below? And there's no way for me to like I don't know how to give in the context of I want to add this, because what's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? It's like I want to move this to the top. If I put this here, do we infer that you always want to go above? I think that might make sense, because like, well, maybe not, but if I drag this all the way to the bottom, I have to do an extra step after I drag it to the bottom, and there's no way to like deal with that.
Right.
Like, how do I know
I'm
that I want to?
actually curious. Let me whip open a C# project real quick. I feel like there was, one second. I'm gonna try some. I just want to see. I feel like I know that let me see. I think because I was screwing around with C# a bit ago, and I did the CS dev kit extension or whatever. And I think that if I go into here, I think it might have been able to do the drag. Curious now. Let me see. But yeah, that's a, and I mean, like, and I, like, is it even, I would say, oh, just, default to one of the behaviors. But then if you default to one of the behaviors, you can't really ever place something at the bottom. Because like whichever
Exactly.
one you default to, you're stuck with.
Exactly. And so what you kind of mentioned about handling on drag and what we possibly could do, what you kind of did mention, is maybe create some sub elements that are kind of hidden-ish. I don't know how easy that's going to be, but that's something that you could play with, right? It's like being like maybe we actually, when we create this view, there's actually like an element between each of these here, and that's how we know to place it on a node. So we'd have to also create our own in between items. We'd have to not intersperse, outer sperse, because we're putting on the edges as well. Some type of dummy node just for drag and drop purposes.
Yeah, because you have to, and I mean, hypothetically, if that work was already done, then yeah, because it's just interesting because like I'm playing with the VS Code one or yes, even the C# one doesn't have it by default. Okay, so then I guess the first thing I would think of, wondering if there's other examples that, because I mean, there's 1,000 languages that probably, like a bunch of languages that are supported by VS Code. I'm wondering if anything else has run into a similar problem that we can use as like a reference point, and if it's open source.
Yeah,
Let me see
I don't know. And the thing is, we might be able to, because there is the handle drag. It might be able to put these items in only on drag and then remove them after the drop event occurs, but that might start getting into weird tracking issues.
I'm gonna see here. VS Code.
I don't know if we can actually create. So if we create a tree item, I don't know if we can create like a dummy
elements
tree.
within the yeah.
Well, like something that's like, I mean, that's not taking up a lot of space, right? Because like that would be the other downside is like now we'd have 20 items in here, right? Or so like this already has a bunch of items, but if I had to
Oh
add
yeah. I would
to
almost
each
think
one,
that if there's a way to do it as an invisible, almost like, I don't know if that's possible, but basically as kind of a invisible, I don't know, like 1 pixel in between the lines element. And I could just snap to that. Let's see, VS Code. I'm trying to think of what other language would have kind of a similar project view. What about
has anyone else seen this kind of thing that we're talking
behavior?
about in VS Code to be able to drag in between items without, I don't know if there's a
Not in VS Code, but I know in Rider when you try to drag a
they have
element,
their own model. It's
yeah,
I understand the concept. I'm looking for a very specific implementation. This concept in VS Code.
maybe OCaml. Let me try to open a kind of a OCaml solution. No, a project I have here to see if they support that.
And actually, the better question might be, what kind of languages would need this kind of project? Because like in a C like C doesn't would never have an extension. I think that would like let you like order stuff. But I'm trying to think if there's any other languages that would need this kind of. I'm thinking like JVM stuff. So I'm like looking through like Scala and Java, seeing if they have an extension that lets you kind of order things. Because if somebody already did something very similar in VS Code, that's like perfect. Let's see, what is the VS Code Scala extension? So there's Scala and Metals. Let's see what these two are.
Yeah, I think the only thing I could think of right now is to not have like we may have to. I mean, it's probably a good idea to just see if we can get this to working where we can just get some drag and drop movement happening,
Mhm.
and then obviously there's that's gonna I think that's gonna probably exhaust our time for today because we're gonna be getting,
Sure.
but just getting idea that can we even how do we if we can do this, what is the realistic things that can happen? And like this is, obviously there's this is the kind of things that you push up against, right? When you're kind of writing these kind of tooling, you're always have some type of constraints. It's not just I can't just write to my heart's content. Well, probably could, but it's a lot more work typically. It's like a bigger hill to go up.
Yeah.
And it becomes how more maintainable is that? So I think
Yeah,
probably what we want to do
I'm
today is
willing to
just
do
get.
that. I would.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
say this could be your project for sure. Like I'm just trying to get you on the
yeah.
the right. I'm just trying to keep you here on this.
Yeah, I think that might be because I'm looking at. No, I think you're right. I think that's where I'd start actually. So then in here, let me pull this up on mine. So then in here, so then in order to start changing stuff, where was that file that I had? So then, okay, let's choose. Are people more like is defaulting to above the preferred? Most of the time, whenever I'm usually thinking about dragging stuff up, and like technically, actually, even if you have you can only ever insert above, you can still get the behavior of like putting stuff below by just always dragging the last element up to the second to last, and then it would shoot that down. So that's something.
Yeah, I mean I think it's a good or the thing is like it's mostly like it's a good starting point to at least, define like can we because the thing is like there's the there's like basically three steps, right? It's like just get something to work. Can you make a path that make this kind of work? And then you can kind of think about the user experience. Like how does this actually map to a better user experience and what the work there? Because like that can usually like just showing that this thing is possible, like the MVP, the minimum viable product, is usually still a good go. And you can kind of see that. Is this even possible? And if it is, then you go to okay, now to make this user experience better, make it
Gotcha.
so we actually create items in between that you can drag to when you do a drag event. But then we have to figure out but like is if you start dragging an item and it has a whole bunch of things there, like all of a sudden we intersperse with a bunch of places where you can add, in between because maybe we can't control the spacing. So
Mhm.
it it creates like imagine this list triples in size or something like that, right?
Right. Would a good starting place for me? So I have, VS Code extension sample. I'm assuming that this sample is kind of there's somewhere in where inside of Ionide VS Code F sharp would I be looking to with my forked repo start building stuff into it? Actually, and maybe I can just search for
So the
handle.
first one, so well, we don't have a drag and drop thing right now. That's the
Right.
thing. We have the tree data provider, and so this is what you want to look for. So if you look for tree data provider, this will take you to a file called Solution Explorer, which happens to be the thing that we're trying to change. Go
Mhm.
figure. The only thing here is right now this is using the object initialization syntax to create a tree provider. I think it's possible to have multiple interfaces on one of these. I remember it being very gross, so this might actually make sense to just make this a type now instead of just a function that returns a type. Like it's fine to actually have a type that implements both of these things. So like
Yeah, and actually, you know what? Here, I'm gonna have to just read through this actually, regardless, because this is cool. Okay. So then your idea would be to, instead of have it right now where it's just creating the tree data provider, you were saying making a type to What would this type be? Sorry.
Those type would be to implement the tree data provider, and if you look at the example, it has to implement multiple things. So there's a tree data
Oh, I
provider
see.
and
Okay.
then the controller, and so you need to
Gotcha.
implement both of these.
Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. I think if you guys would like, I feel like, because I mean, we can, we could work through it here, or I could go offline and try to actually. I don't want to take up because this is obviously a task.
Yeah, I think we're probably getting closer to being out of time because it is about an hour and a half now. So it's probably good to start at this is like the good entry point into starting it.
Mhm.
And we could definitely do another session looking at like once you kind of get over the environmental hurdles and
Yeah.
start kind of actually churning on this.
Cool. Awesome. Well, actually, I appreciate it. Though I did not know where to even start, so this is actually somewhere to start. So thank you.
And then the next step is once you get into dragging and moving items, then you have to get into sending the request to VS Code or to
Mhm.
FS Autocomplete. Hey, I want you to actually update the project file with this information, and so
And
that'll be the
FS
slider.
Autocomplete is I didn't so FS Autocomplete is responsible for project structure stuff.
It's responsible for it's the brains behind everything that happens and like getting you IntelliSense, showing you this information. Like this is all just kind of UI driven stuff. And the Ionide does make some decisions, but it's not like a lot of
So it's almost like
decisions.
Ionide is the specific implementation of the UI for VS
Yes.
Code, and then FS Autocomplete is like you could use for anything hypothetically.
Yep, yep, and that's how all language server protocol oriented services operate these days.
Cool. Awesome. I'm willing to call it there. I have this pulled down. I'm gonna probably spend some time later on in the day, and I can try to get my environment going, and then I can see if I can. If I get stuck or anything, I'll say something in the Discord.
All right, sounds good. All right,
Cool.
well, with that, I'm gonna give this back to you, Florian.
All right, so thank you so much, Chad, for taking the initiative because that's what we're really after. People who just want to try this stuff, who somewhat embrace that it's overwhelming. We give them a couple of pointers, and now you have a starting point, and potentially you're going to make something out of it. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, for your willingness to do this, because you are a little bit put on the spot here. We definitely realize that. So we're just happy to see you around, and we'll stay in touch, try and follow up on these things. Some parting words for the stream. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll probably do this a little less frequent going forward. So we had a first good year where we did the weekly stream, and yeah, we probably are gonna have like a little bit of a slower cadence, but those who do want to present, we're always happy to have you. And yeah, that's all from my end. See you next time.
Thank you, Chad.
Bye, everybody.